Hello, how's it going? Today, I'm covering the Vanishing of Aegwynn and the War of the Three Hammers. Just to make it official, the schedule for the channel has changed. So I'm doing a Chronicle Volume 3 video on Mondays, and then Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm just continuing the story from where we're currently at. So that's a thing. But anyway, let's go! Aegwynn. After the battle in Northrend, she had some Sargeras inside her, and that little bit of Sargeras started twisting her thoughts. She'd always had a bit of mistrust towards the Council of Tirisfal, but these dark thoughts were causing her to isolate herself from them. She'd discovered that the Council were interfering with the politics of human nations, and she wasn't a big fan of that. They argued that it was necessary. With their knowledge and wisdom, they had the power to prevent war and suffering in the mortal world. And Aegwynn thought, nah. She feared that, if she stepped down, the Council would choose a weaker guardian, a yes person, someone they could use to further their political agenda. So she decided she would stay on past a century of service, and she used magic to extend her life decades longer than should be possible. Some of the Council weren't happy with this decision, but they accepted it. Aegwynn had been incredible during her time as the Guardian, and they didn't know she had some Sargeras inside her. As further time passed, Sargeras' influence caused Aegwynn to become even more paranoid. She constructed a refuge in Deadwind Pass, a grand tower known as Karazhan. Its whereabouts would remain secret from the Council for many years. Time passed, aging members of the Council passed away, and new sorcerers arose to join the Order. The Council continued to interfere with the nations of the Eastern Kingdoms. Many of the new members also pushed for a more direct approach in dealing with the Wayward Guardian. On one of Aegwynn's rare visits to Dalaran, the Council demanded that she step down or face immediate consequences. Aegwynn was like, "You what, mate?" And she told them to sod off. The Council were furious. They had a little brain trust meeting and agreed they needed to take action. One suggestion was to empower a second Guardian, but there were fears the two Guardians battling out could cause quite a bit of damage to the world, and also draw unwanted attention. Ultimately, they agreed on a more subtle course of action. They formed the Terrace Guard, an order of mages armed with relics that could diminish the Guardian's incredible powers. After years of training, these gifted hunters set out to find Aegwynn and bring her to Dalaran. I like how they threatened Aegwynn with immediate consequences, and then decided the best immediate consequence would be to spend several years training an order of mages. Real sense of urgency there. Although Aegwynn managed to elude Terrace Guard with relative ease, they did discover the location of Karazhan and report it back to the Council. With Karazhan compromised, Aegwynn magically sealed the tower from outsiders and set out to find a new refuge. She went to the ruins of ancient Suramar, deep beneath the sea. She seems a little bit obsessed with that place. The Guardian's sanctum would stay hidden from the Terrace Guard for centuries. But enough about her for now. We're headed to Ironforge for some dwarf stuff. King Modamus Anvilmar and his dwarves thrived in their mountainous home. Trade partnerships with the human kingdoms had filled Ironforge's coffers with riches, and great architectural feats had led to quite a bit of tourism. But there were some tensions rising between Ironforge's three powerful clans: the Bronzebeards, the Wildhammers, and the Dark Irons. Thane Madoran Bronzebeard was the head of, well, the Bronzebeards, obviously. They were the largest of the factions. This clan formed the bulk of the military and merchant classes, considered itself the backbone of the kingdom, and claimed to share distant blood relations with High King Modamus. Thane Cardros Wildhammer led the Wildhammers. Thane is a Scottish title, by the way, not just a really popular first name amongst dwarfs. Basically just means chief. The Wildhammers lived outside Ironforge in the craggy hills. They were adept and incredibly resilient mountaineers. They were considered uncouth by the Bronzebeards and were struggling to gain more sway with the king. Sorcerer Thane Thorisan ruled the Dark Irons. These guys dabbled in sorcery, but also a lot of secrecy and political scheming. This meant that the other inhabitants of Ironforge weren't big fans of them. Thorisan had control over the kingdom's richest gem and mineral deposits, meaning he was bloody minted, and he used his wealth to protect his people and secure a place in Ironforge's political arena. High King Modamus tried to treat each clan fairly and with respect, but his inability to ease tensions ultimately led to things going ever so slightly wrong. First of all, he died of old age, so that's a thing. Before his eldest son could be crowned, poop hit the fan. No one knows exactly who struck the first blow, which in Chronicle means they wanted to leave it ambiguous, so I'm going to go ahead and guess it was the Dark Irons, because, you know, they're super secret spy types. Anyway, war ignited between the three clans as they each vied for dominion over the mountain. Bloody battles raged across the kingdom for many years. In the end, the Bronzebeards managed to drive the Wildhammers and Dark Irons from the mountain and gain total victory. Cardros conceded defeat and led his clan north. The Wildhammers settled in a nearby region of marshlands. They carved out a city named Grim Batol. This city would soon rival Ironforge itself in prestige. Cardros wasn't exactly over the moon about being defeated, but in time, he and his kin accepted their lot and prospered in their new home. The Dark Irons ventured south. They found a new kingdom and named it Thorisan after their leader. The people prospered, but Thorisan, the person, not the place, wallowed in humiliation over his defeat. He dreamed of one day getting sweet, sweet revenge and claiming all of Khazmodan as his own. But Thorassan wasn't one of those people who just sits and thinks about what he wants. He's a doer. So he secretly forged an army for a few years and then launched a two-pronged assault against the Bronzebeard and Wildhammer clans. He himself led the attack on Ironforge. They managed to reach the very heart of Ironforge itself before the Bronzebeards rallied and pushed the Dark Irons back to Redridge. Thorassan's wife, Modgood, led the second army against Grim Batol. Cardros led the Wildhammers on a daring counterattack and managed to straight up murder the cow. With Modgood's death, the Dark Irons retreated south, only to find themselves face to face with the armies of Ironforge. The Bronzebeard and Wildhammer armies crushed the Dark Iron dwarves from both sides. The Beards and Hammers now had a common enemy and a new purpose. They vowed to put their differences aside and work together to basically wipe the Dark Irons from the face of the world. So they marched their mighty host southward. As they approached, Thorassan scrambled for a way to defeat his enemies. He decided to draw the fiery power from deep within the world and use it as a weapon. He wove a great spell to save his kingdom, but it was at this point the death of his wife kind of hit him, and it kind of messed him up a bit. In his fury, his spell breached the elemental plane and tapped into Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Without meaning to, Thorassan had managed to summon Ragnaros to the surface of Azeroth. This sparked a series of apocalyptic explosions. Thorassan was one-shotted, and the surrounding mountains were shattered. From afar, Madoran and Cardros watched the area get engulfed in flame and soiled themselves. There was nothing they could do for the Dark Irons now. Frightened for their own safety, they turned north and cheesed it. And we're leaving it there! Bet you weren't expecting Ragnaros to randomly show up at the end of that story. That was a curveball. Next Wednesday, I'll be covering the aftermath and reconstruction following that whole thing, as well as the liberation of Kazan and Stormwind and the Knoll War. If you want to see that and or Monday's Chronicle Volume 3 video, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next week. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button, talk to me in the comments, and all that's left to say is, thanks very much for watching, and see ya!